Hello. Thank you again for joining me. Please subscribe and like so I can build the channel up. I appreciate it so much. I really do. I want to share as much as I can with everybody, and that's the best way to do it. I thoroughly appreciate your help. I really do. So, enough with that. I won't harass you with that anymore. Instead, I have another kind of a combo that I'm going to talk about today that is actually really fascinating. In my opinion, this is one of the... It's certainly a real thing. And I won't say that very often with any of the things that I talk about in this channel. Most of the things that I talk about are very questionably, possibly real, very questionably real at all. A lot of them are completely bollocks and not a thing. But the stories are. And the reports are reports. And I think that's the folklore is what's important to me anyway, regardless of reality. Having said that, this one is unusual in a lot of ways because this is an undeniably real thing. So one of the most famous versions of what I'm talking about is the Marfa lights. Hey, I got it right. I was looking for the subtitles to see if they would get that. So Marfa, Texas is pretty famous for some lights that show up kind of floating around on, I want to say close to somewhere related to a hill, mountain kind of thing. This is by no means the only place in the United States or in the rest of the world. The European version is something that you might have heard of before, Will of the Wisp. And these European versions talk about the Will of the Wisps that are not the pleasant things you saw in Brave, Disney's movie. Yeah, no. It's always a bad idea. Always a bad idea to follow any of these Will of the Wisps. Because all the tales actually tell of these being some sort of weird creature that's trying to lead you away from safety, very frequently trying to kill you. Don't follow them. Not that I had a problem with that movie for that or anything, but the United States versions are a whole lot less specific. It's more of just reports of seeing these things, and nobody knows what they are. Sometimes, as some of you are probably already thinking, wait, that's not true. People do know. But some of them, yes, have been attributed to atmospheric effects where lights kind of reflect up and down, reflect off and come back down through atmospheric effects to make it look like you're seeing lights that are coming from someplace that they couldn't possibly be coming from. Usually those are because the lights from highway or something like that face a direction that just happens. If you're in just the right spot, it can do this weird atmospheric thing. That's a thing. It's a real thing too, for sure. But it certainly doesn't answer all of them. A lot of these are like the swamp gas kind of thing or something like that is another answer people give very frequently. And that's a real thing too. But quite a lot of these are on mountains or something where you don't have swamp gas that could do that kind of thing at all. And they're not in any kind of perceivable angle to allow for any kind of headlights to show. They just are lights that happen to be very frequently often a long distance, but very often they seem to be moving and alive for some reason. Somehow it's moving, it's doing some sort of thing. Sometimes they're relatively static, but sometimes they come and go. Sometimes they move. Sometimes they're not all that far away at all. Sometimes they're so close you can almost feel like you could walk over and just touch it. So there's some weird stuff. And Yeah. The weirder part is that, yeah, all this atmospheric stuff from highways can't even possibly be the case for a lot of these, because they've been reported long before cars or carriages were even in areas to give you that kind of a lighting situation. Um, Especially since carriages lights were nowhere near as strong as a headlight. That is even less likely. But it's still a thing somehow. It just, you have all these possible answers that don't seem to fit a lot of these cases, and it's weird. Another place where this is really famous was actually the place that inspired the Cars Mater's Ghost Light. If you've ever seen that short, it's entertaining. But it inspired the story for that sets up his terrified romp. Is actually from mostly is inspired by one that is just a little bit east of Joplin, Missouri, that is right at the edge of the border there of the state. I used to live close over there, and just before I moved away after graduating my community college, when I was doing that before I went on to full-on university, some of my friends just knew that I was interested in this kind of thing, and decided that they'd bring me out there and show me the ghost lights. So I've actually been out there, and we didn't see a thing that day. But a whole lot of people do. And I gotta say, I have to say, it's hard to say whether or not I'm actually disappointed that I didn't, or if I'm glad I didn't. I know that sounds weird, but there's something about being at that location, even though it's just a dirt road where we were, that's just a little away from civilization. It's not that far away from a town. But something about being there was really creepy, even with or without that, and even surrounded by, like, I don't know, 8 other friends or something like that. It still felt really. I was quite frankly afraid to see it, but I still wanted to. So there's something strange and kind of this atmospheric feel of the area. So it's fantastically interesting stuff. And I'll stop babbling about it because you can find all sorts of other places. Hopefully you live in an area that's relatively close to one of these sites around the United States or elsewhere that can actually entice you into going to see them. Don't ever trespass them. That's not what I'm saying, though. Make sure you get permission to be somewhere if you do any of this kind of thing, and to go look for any of these creatures or anything that I've been talking about in this channel or show you in the sculptures. You don't want to get shot, for one thing. Also, you don't want to go to jail or anything like that for all potentially bad trespassing issues. But they can also be dangerous places. So be very careful and always look for permission first. But there are a lot of public areas, like the road I was just referring to. So there's some entertaining things you can go and see on your own. And I would love for you to share those things with me as well. But for now, I'm going to cut off here in hopes of it's afternoon Halloween, and the embers are dying behind me, making it look a lot later at night. But I'm going to cut off these and start posting stuff very soon. So hopefully you can help me build up a channel where people can watch me make artwork and talk about different creatures and strange things like that. So thank you again for helping me out. I thoroughly appreciate it. Happy Halloween. I wish we could all be together, but this is almost as good, I think. So see you soon. Enjoy your Halloween.